Call the meeting to order. Tonight we have 3 public hearings before we start our regular session. I will call each of the public, as we go through, I'll call a public hearing. I'll read it, what it's about. I'll ask Karen to give us a little heads up on what's happening. Then anybody that wishes to come forward and talk on that public hearing can come forward. Go through that routine for each of the hearings. Then we'll go into our regular session. During the regular session, all 3 of the issues that are going to be in the public hearing will be discussed by the commission. We'll go to the first public hearing. That's public hearing concerning an application to vacate a portion of right-of-way of the Cherrywood Terrace open space and common area.
For this particular case, Rick and Margie Laborde have applied for a right-of-way or easement vacation of approximately 9,977 square feet of city-owned property located adjacent to their home at 1692 East Himes Street in the Cherrywood Terrace subdivision.
Anyone wish to speak to us on this hearing? It's a good start. Hearing, seeing no one come forward, we'll close that hearing and go to the second hearing, a public hearing concerning an application to amend the zoning code and official map by changing the zoning classification of approximately 1.59 acres, 69,517 square feet from general commercial C2 and local commercial C1 to general commercial C2, and 0.9 acres, 39,443 square feet of general commercial C2 and local commercial C1 to local commercial C1, located at 331 South Main Street. Karen?
Right Development has applied to change the zoning classification of Lot 1 and Lot 2 of Main Street Commercial Development located at 331 South Main Street from a combination of local commercial and general commercial to general commercial on Lot 1 and local commercial on Lot 2.
Does anyone wish to speak at this hearing?
I'm here for any questions.
Come forward, give us your name.
Gabriel Woodman with Right Development. I'm here if you guys have any questions, but it's really just a house cleaning.
Well, we might have questions when we discuss it, but if you have any presentation, you should give it now. If you don't, that's fine.
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No one else coming forward. I'll close that hearing and move to hearing number 3. Public hearing concerning an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, repealing and replacing Chapter 405 zoning regulations, Article 4, a planned development district by providing for a revised procedure for the application review and approval of planned developments. Karen?
A revised and reformatted process for planned developments of mixed uses and densities.
Does anyone wish to come forward and speak on this one? Not seeing anyone come forward or anyone yelling at me that they're headed that way. I'm going to close that hearing. We'll move to the regular meeting. The first item of business is the approval of minutes of the December 11th, 2017 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Make a motion to approve those minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the motion?
I haven't seen those minutes.
They're actually in the packet.
They didn't look like the real ones. Okay. Yeah.
You want to take a second, George?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Then call the roll, please.
Aye. Tony Mitchell.
Aye.
George North.
Aye.
Jeff Ressler.
I'll have to abstain.
Rance Bellis.
Aye. Move to citizen participation. Next item of business. Anyone that wishes to come forward and speak with us about any matter, preferably not about the public hearings that you just had an opportunity to speak at, we would be happy to hear from you. Seeing no one come forward, we have no old business. We move to new business. First item, discussion and possible vote to recommend the approval of an application to vacate a portion of right-of-way of Cherrywood Terrace open space and common area.
I'm Don Barry. I'm with Lee Engineering. I'm the surveyor that presented the plat, in case you have any questions during your discussion.
Okay. Is that drainage?
Yes. The portion of the property that they're requesting to be vacated falls within the common area of the plat noted for open space for recreational and drainage use.
It looks like it's just maybe 5 or so feet, or maybe a little bit more in an L shape.
The strip that falls to the south of their property is 15 feet wide, and the triangle is roughly 112 by 134.
I did never pass geometry, and I have difficulty with scales, so I see it's bigger than I
Okay.
was a guess. It's just on the edge of their property, on 2 sides of their property, though.
Correct.
Anybody got an issue with it?
I've got
I have a question. If it is a common area and they decide that they want to put a fence up there, would that take away from the city easement?
Oh, okay, it's on the other side.
Well, for this particular portion that they're asking to be vacated, it's going to be replatted into their current lot. And there are some challenges to actually putting a fence on that piece of property once it's replatted, because it is in the floodplain, and part of it's actually in the floodway. So it can be done, but there will be additional review required and permitting requirements to do that.
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of an application to vacate the portion of the right-of-way of Cherrywood Terrace open space and common area, Exhibit A.
Here, a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Call the roll, please. Here.
Alan Mason. Aye. Tony Mitchell.
Aye.
George North.
Aye.
Jeff Russell.
Aye.
Ransom Ellis.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to the next item of new business, discussion and possible vote to recommend the approval of an application to amend the zoning code and official map by changing the zoning classification of approximately 1.59 acres, 69,517 square feet from general commercial C2 and local commercial C1 to general commercial C2, and 0.9 acres, 39,443 square feet of general commercial C2 and local commercial C1 to local commercial C1 on property located at 331 South Main Street.
I'd like to point out that this particular application is more of a housekeeping issue. The property is owned by Right Development at this location. In the fall, they were combined into 2 lots, so a new subdivision. And the zoning classification within the newly constructed 2 lots was not consistent throughout the lot. So by rezoning, we're actually having the lot lines and the boundary lines of the zoning district consistent.
Do I understand that we're just kind of reversing the classifications on the 2 separate lots?
Well, sort of. If you'll look at this page, you'll notice that the one that I've marked C1, C2, or Lot 1, C2, this portion is actually C2 right now, and the portion that's kind of the dog leg down here is the C1. So what they are requesting is for the entire boundary of Lot 1 to be C2. Okay. And then it's exactly the same on C1. We have a portion that is C2, and then these other areas of Lot 2 are actually C1. So this entire parcel of Lot 2 will now be C1.
I'll make a motion to City Council to amend the zoning code and officially change the zoning classification approximately 1.59 acres, 69,517 square feet from commercial zone C2 and commercial C1 to general commercial C2, and 0.9 acres, 39,443 square feet of general commercial C2 and local commercial C1 to local commercial C1 located at 331 South Main Street.
As represented on Exhibit B.
Proceed for questions.
Just for questions,
Yep.
still?
Yes, sir. So,
I think we're past that.
okay.
Second.
All right, I got a second. Any discussion on the motion? Call roll.
Jeff Russell,
Aye.
George North,
Aye.
Tony Mitchell,
Aye.
Alan Dixon. Aye. Ransom Mills.
Aye. Hope that's what you wanted. You hadn't been standing there very long, had you?
No.
Because I was looking down, I didn't see you,
I was there.
even though you're hard to miss. All right, third item of business, discussion and possible vote to recommend the approval of an ordinance of the City Council, City of the Republic, Missouri, repealing and replacing Chapter 405 Zone Regulations, Article 4, a Plan Development District by providing for a revised procedure for the application review and approval of plan developments. I think it might be a good idea to walk through the changes in this again.
I can take care of that if you
Maybe.
don't mind.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
as most of you know, traditionally the way that we conduct planning and zoning is by defining different zoning districts and then only allowing a narrow number of uses to be conducted in that land if it's within that district. So it's a way to separate land uses in order to prevent certain interactions that cause problems for our community. But the drawback is that when you separate things like that and you only say that in this district you can only have this type of density or this particular set of uses, it doesn't lend itself very well to creativity and innovation or the mixture of those uses. And so in more recent years, it has become desirable and trends are going in a way as such that it's a good thing to mix uses sometimes. So contemporary designs of developments and subdivisions want to mix uses and bring a diversity of use all within the same type of development in ways that would not be allowed under the traditional way of zoning. that wants to separate those things. So in a response to that, what a lot of municipalities have done is they've come up with a scheme that is often called planned unit developments, or planned development districts as we call it here in Republic, which allows for you to rezone your property according to a specific plan that allows you to say, I'm going to have this use here, this use here, this density here, this density here, all within the same development. And then a zoning commission or a council can approve that plan, and then that becomes your zoning. It's sort of like a custom zoning. The issue that we're bringing before you this evening is to completely change the way that we approach those reviews and approvals of those planned developments. As is often the case when you let public servants like us write the regulations, we tend to be very risk averse, and we tend to a lot of times assume bad intent on the part of the private actors, and so we try to craft these regulations that guard against any possible thing that could ever go bad. What you end up with is some very cumbersome and very lengthy procedures that sometimes are wasteful, sometimes redundant, and sometimes just counterproductive to what you actually want to accomplish, which is good quality development in the community. So this is our response to that problem existing here in Republic. Our current planned development district procedure requires you to basically get your development plan approved 3 times before you can actually develop it. I appreciate that there's lots of due process there, but it's really unnecessary and wasteful. Those of you who have been on this commission long enough can recall times when we've had PDDs and we bring it to you, and then we bring it to you again, and then sometimes we bring it to you again, and you're basically saying yes to the same thing 3 times in a row. So what we're proposing to do here is simplify that and cut the process down in a way where the development plan is presented to you once at the time of rezone, and then it won't come to you again unless the applicant or city staff decides that things have changed throughout the course of development that warrant it to come back to you, because somebody wants to do something that is substantially different than what you guys originally approved. So what this does is you'll have a rezone application. That rezone application will be matched up with a development plan, in essence an illustration of what that development will look like, what sort of uses will go where, what sort of densities will go where. You'll approve that plan at the time of rezone. There will be a public hearing just like there is now, so neighbors and anybody else with an interest can come and speak. There will be the same amount of due process as is required by statute. But once you approve that development plan, then that particular developer is allowed to go directly from getting that approved straight into designing their development, and assuming what they designed matches up with what was approved, then they get to go straight into actually building it, and then it will get final platted, assuming that all along the way things are substantially conforming to what was originally approved at the time of rezone. If at any time, the city attorney asked me today if we were concerned that this lacked teeth for staff to get involved. I don't think that it does. If at any time either the developer or city staff feels like things are not progressing in a way that either of them like, there is an out that's built into this ordinance. At any time, it can be brought forward to Planning and Zoning Commission with an actual preliminary plat, just like you would do under normal development. So in essence, you can basically abort mission if it's not going the right way, and just go the conventional route if that's what you want to do. I hope that that doesn't happen, but we put that in there just in case a developer does get uncomfortable, because what this presents is shared risk. There's risk on the part of the developer, there's also risk on the part of the city, and as long as we're sharing in that risk and both heading towards mutual benefit, I don't foresee any problems. But sometimes people get nervous, sometimes people don't trust city staff. And sometimes I don't blame them, but I could see where somebody might want an out, so that out is built in here. But assuming everything proceeds according to that original development plan, then you ought to be able to get through that process much more quickly and with much fewer hurt feelings, I guess I could say. So, go ahead.
It takes the preliminary plat out of the system as it is now?
It does. It in essence eliminates the preliminary plat, which, as it turns out, you can do. There's no statutory requirement for a preliminary plat, which I was unaware of until we did this research. So it eliminates that, which, like I said, there's some risk on both sides in doing that. But as long as both sides are working together to make sure that everything stays in accordance with the comprehensive plan of the city and in accordance with the municipal code requirements, it shouldn't be an issue.
So it doesn't really take any teeth out of you, you just have to be a little more, present on the first set.
Yeah, we just have to stay on top of it and
Right.
from the very beginning. You're right.
And it should move quicker.
Yes, substantially quicker.
Any other questions?
Without reading this whole thing, I'd recommend approval of this ordinance change. If that's,
I have a
unless you
motion,
need it.
I have a motion to recommend approval to the, let's see,
Repealing and replacing chapter 4 or 5.
right.
Yeah.
As in Exhibit C. There a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? Call it.
Alan Dixon.
Aye.
Tony Mitchell.
Aye.
George North.
Aye.
Jeff Russell.
Aye.
Ransom Ellis.
Aye. Motion carried. I hear any other motion?
To adjourn, motion to adjourn.
Second.
I think I heard affirmation on that one. Do we have the little forms that you need to fill out?
Yeah.
Yes, they are in
I've
front of
already
you.
got yours.
Yes, they are.
George and I are on top of it, we know you're in a hurry. He's dropping it.
That doesn't make it.
It's cable, so I don't really see that.
Yeah, I'm not, me neither. My ex-wife, got me cable for my birthday.
It's hard to make that transition.
I already did, I had a 12:30 when I got
Canceled it yesterday. I said, I'm not paying for it after this. I don't watch enough TV, you know?
Yeah.
I really don't.
I watch more than I should, but we just never got into the paying route. There's really enough. I was supposed to see if you're interested.
Yeah. I watch a lot of PBS stuff,
That's,
cooking shows and stuff. I mean, that's enjoyable to me. I don't have much downtime anyway. So,
next January. Have to clean the windshield off again, I guess.
Garrett didn't, he did
Oh,
that
yeah,
one,
yeah.
I did the other.
no, yeah, this morning was a little, this
Yeah.
morning?
You'll notice our formatting's a little
That was this morning or yesterday?
It's foggy this morning, so it probably,
Probably, well, yesterday, I think I had the script.
before I come up here, I had to
Yeah.
spray it. Yeah, it's all froze already.
You don't happen to know the commission's terms, do you, as far as how long they are?